Your sister gave me everything I ever wanted, my dad said. She gave this family a real legacy. My son's shoulders drooped as he whispered, "So, I'm not part of it." I looked across the table, lifted my glass, and without thinking twice, announced it. My dad was already 3 glasses in when he raised his wine like he was about to crown someone king. We were at the long oak dining table, the one I'd helped pay for 2 years ago when they started renovating the house for the grandkids. Everyone was there, my parents, my sister Lauren and her 2 boys, me, and my son Ethan. It was supposed to be our pre-Christmas dinner. Casual, warm, but nothing at their house is casual anymore. He stood up halfway, swaying a bit, and smiled at Lauren like she was the only person who existed. "Your sister gave me everything I ever wanted," he said again. "She gave this family a real legacy." My fork stopped midair. I looked across the table and saw Ethan freeze. He stared at his plate, blinking slowly. He's not the loud type. He's thoughtful, quiet, and in moments like this, painfully polite. I leaned closer instinctively just as he whispered it. "So I'm not part of it." He didn't look up when he said it. He didn't need to. I heard the weight in those words like a gut punch. And my father just kept smiling at Lauren's kids like they were sitting on some throne made of gold medals and science fair trophies. I picked up my glass. I didn't plan to say anything. I really didn't. But when I looked at my father, something in me snapped. Then I guess I'm done paying for this legacy. The room shifted, not physically, but something real changed in the silence that followed. My mom looked at me like I'd slapped someone. My dad blinked, then scoffed, trying to laugh it off like he hadn't just publicly declared that my son wasn't part of the family's real story. He started talking again, trying to soften it, but he didn't apologize. He just said more of the same, how Lauren's boys were excelling, how they'd be the ones to carry our family name, even though one of them was 12 and the other 7. As if Ethan, who'd built his own computer at 15 and tutored kids older than him for free, was invisible. Lauren said nothing at first. She just looked at me across the table with this strange expression, like she was torn between rolling her eyes and grabbing the bottle herself. Her boys were busy shoveling mashed potatoes, oblivious. And Ethan, he just sat there, quiet, like he'd heard this kind of thing before. Maybe he had. Maybe I hadn't noticed. Maybe I'd been too busy keeping things peaceful to realize how often they'd made him feel like the extra. I set my glass down, calm, final. Just so we're all clear, this was the last thing I'm paying for in this house. Mom opened her mouth. I didn't wait. I stood up, kissed Ethan on the head, and walked out of the dining room. I didn't slam anything. I didn't need to. But I knew this wasn't over, not even close. I didn't even make it to my car before Lauren followed me out. She wasn't wearing shoes and muttered something about the cold, but I could tell she wasn't just checking in on me. She looked pissed, and not at me. She caught up and said, "So, that was something." I lit a cigarette. I don't even smoke regularly. It's just one of those emergency vices. I shrugged. Lauren said, "You know, he's always been like this, but it's not right. You know that, right?" I told her I knew, but that didn't make it sting less. She leaned against the passenger side and sighed. "Look, I didn't ask to be the golden child. You think I enjoy watching my kids get paraded around like show dogs every time we come over here?" I stayed quiet. Then she said, "I'd never let them say anything like that to Ethan if I heard it. You know that, don't you?" That's when I looked at her, really looked at her, and I realized something strange. She wasn't just trying to smooth things over. She was angry, the kind of quiet, restrained anger that only someone really tired of being worshipped can feel. She went back inside after that. I didn't. I took Ethan and we left. I told Mom we had to feed the dog. We don't have a dog. Didn't matter. The next morning I got a text from Dad. No apology, just a line. "Don't let your feelings get in the way of family responsibilities." I read it out loud to Ethan, mostly so he'd hear how absurd it sounded. He didn't laugh. He just went back to his homework. By the end of the week, the calls started. First, Mom asking if I'd had time to send over the final payment for the contractor. Then again, a few days later, reminding me that the plumber they were using was on a tight schedule. I said I hadn't forgotten anything. I just wasn't paying. Silence. Then she said, "But we already told them it was covered." I told her to call them back. That weekend, Lauren and I met for coffee. She looked rough. She said Mom had been calling her nonstop, trying to guilt her into talking some sense into me, but she wasn't budging. She told me verbatim, "You're not the one who should feel guilty here." The cracks started to show fast. Dad left me a voicemail saying I was disrupting the whole process, like I was an intern slacking off. Then Mom called again, voice tight, and asked if I was really going to let the guest bathroom sit unfinished when they had company coming in January. I said maybe tell them about the legacy. She hung up. They didn't expect it, that I'd actually stop, that I wouldn't come crawling back like I always had, offering to cover the difference just to keep things smooth. And here's the part they weren't ready for. Lauren didn't cave either. When they called her and asked her to help fund the last parts of the renovation, she laughed. She told them they should have thought about that before trying to rewrite the definition of family legacy. That's when it really began. The unraveling, the bitterness, and the slow realization that maybe, just maybe, they'd underestimated both of their daughters. By the second week of January, the house started turning on them. That's what Lauren called it. The hallway tiles had been ripped up but never replaced. The guest bathroom had exposed pipes and a hole where the mirror was supposed to go. The crown molding sat in the garage, untouched, next to a pile of unpaid invoices. I knew all this because my mother, in her own dramatic way, sent me a photo of the kitchen with a caption. "Is this what you want your father's legacy to look like?" I didn't answer. What I wanted was for them to remember the way Ethan's face looked that night. The way they let a 17-year-old boy shrink into his chair because he didn't belong in their legacy. But they didn't care about that. They cared about the renovations, about what their neighbors would think, about finishing things. Not because they needed them finished, but because they wanted everything to look impressive. A week later, my father called and left a voicemail. His tone was different, controlled, more serious than usual. "We've supported you girls your whole lives," he said. "I don't think it's fair to punish us now over a misunderstanding." I played that message twice, then I forwarded it to Lauren. She called me immediately. "Oh, so now we're back to the 'we raised you' arguments," she said. "Yep," I replied. "Apparently, supporting your kids as they grow up is now a lifelong contract that requires financing their drywall." Lauren didn't just laugh. She told me something I didn't know. Turns out Mom had asked her oldest, Aaron, the 12-year-old, if he thought Grandma's house was still nice, even though some people had decided not to help anymore. She tried to turn her own grandkid into a messenger. Aaron told Lauren that night, and Lauren lost it. She called Mom and told her never to bring her kids into this again. She reminded her that she had never asked for any of the praise they piled on her boys. Mom said, "I just thought you'd understand how hard this is on us." Lauren replied, "What's hard is watching you make one grandchild feel invisible and expecting the other one to feel grateful for it." It was around that point I realized my sister wasn't just quietly supporting me. She was standing next to me and pissing them off more than I ever could. Because here was the golden child, the one they always bragged about, telling them no. Then the real kicker came. Lauren told them they wouldn't be visiting again until they apologized to Ethan. "Not to me," she said, "to Ethan." That night I got a text from my mother. "You've poisoned your sister. I hope you're proud." I stared at it for a full minute before deleting it. The silence after that was bliss. No more voicemails, no more pictures of the construction mess. Just silence and dust settling, literally and figuratively, in their unfinished home. I knew it wouldn't last. They weren't the type to let things go. But I was fine waiting, because this time they'd made their choice, and I'd made mine. By the end of January, I figured they'd back off. I thought the silence meant they were finally getting it. I was wrong. One Tuesday morning, a white pickup truck pulled into my driveway. I was on a work call when Ethan came in and said, "There's a guy out front asking for you. He says he's from Belden and Sons Construction." I stepped outside, still half on the phone, expecting a mix-up. The guy waved politely and handed me a clipboard. "Just need your signature here to approve the remaining work at your parents' place," he said. I blinked. "What?" He flipped to the second page. "Yeah, they said you'd handle the payments. You've been covering it so far. We got a green light to continue. Just needed your confirmation, since you're listed as the primary." I told him there was a mistake. There wouldn't be any more payments. Not from me. He scratched his head, nodded slowly, and said, "Well, in that case, I guess the work's going to stop today." Then he dropped the part that made everything click. "Your mom told us you'd probably throw a fit at first, but would come around. That this was just a family spat." I didn't say anything. I thanked him and walked back inside. That night I called Lauren. She was livid. Not surprised, but livid. She told me Mom had mentioned things would be taken care of soon, and she'd assumed they'd gotten a loan or something. Neither of us expected them to try and run it up under my name behind my back. "That's not just manipulative," found Lauren said. "That's straight up fraud." I agreed, but I didn't want lawyers. I didn't want court. I wanted something worse. I called my accountant the next morning and made it official. We took my name off everything. No more passive financial links, no more auto transfers, no more fallback credit cards I'd forgotten they had access to. By that weekend, the contractor called them and told them all work was suspended indefinitely. Mom texted me once, one line, "What did you do?" I ignored it. Then came the unexpected part. A week later, I got a package in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a stack of old family photos and a note. Just 2 sentences. I found these cleaning out the attic. Maybe Ethan would like to see he belongs. No one else ever will. It was from my grandmother. She'd passed 5 years ago, but my parents had clearly held on to her boxes. Somehow the timing was too perfect. I don't know if they found it then or had been holding on to it like some weird family bargaining chip. Inside were pictures I'd never seen. One of Ethan as a toddler, sitting in Grandma's lap, both of them smiling. Another of her holding a sign at his third-grade recital. On the back, in faded pen, she'd written, "My boy, my joy." I showed it to Ethan that night. He didn't say much, but he put the photo in a frame and set it on his desk. Later, I got a message from Lauren. "You're not the only one Grandma left things for," it said. "Found something in the attic, too. I think she knew how this would all go." That was when I realized this wasn't just about construction or money or family dinners. It was about the things people tried to erase, and the people who quietly made sure they couldn't. Mid-February rolled around, and with it came my mom's birthday. Usually, it was a forced, over-decorated gathering where everyone pretended things were fine. In past years, I helped organize the catering, ordered her stupid custom cake with gold lettering, even bought the ridiculous centerpiece she insisted on that no one ever commented on. This year, I did none of it. Lauren didn't either. 3 days before, my dad sent us a group message. "Kurt dinner at 6 o'clock Sunday. Be there." No please, no details, no checking who was bringing what. Just a command, like we were still 15 and grounded. Lauren texted me separately. "I'm not going." I told her I wasn't planning to, so neither of us went. And apparently, no one else did either, because on Sunday night at 9:14 p.m., Lauren sent me a screenshot of Mom's Facebook status. Just a blurry picture of their half-set dining table with the caption, "Sometimes family disappoints you in ways strangers never would." Underneath were 2 pitying comments and one from her church friend that said, "Prayers." I thought that would be the end of it. Their public pity party. Their way of fishing for attention since no one showed up to their birthday shrine. But what I didn't expect was what happened 2 days later. I picked Ethan up from school, and he was weirdly quiet. When we got home, I finally asked. He said, "Grandma came to school today." I nearly dropped my keys. "She what?" "She was waiting outside," he said. "Said she just wanted to say hi. She gave me an envelope and said not to tell you because you'd overreact." I told him to go upstairs. Then I opened it. Inside was a birthday invitation. Not a belated one, a redo. A second birthday dinner, just for family, who actually cares. Lauren and her boys had gotten one too. Her oldest told her the same thing. Grandma came to the school gates, handed him the envelope and said, "Don't tell your mom." We were stunned. Not just by the shameless manipulation, but by how far she was willing to go. Showing up at schools, using the kids, skipping us completely. I called Lauren. She didn't even wait for me to finish. "If she ever shows up like that again," she said, "I'm calling the school and having her banned." We agreed to meet the next day, just us and the kids, somewhere quiet, somewhere outside of the chaos. At that lunch, Ethan leaned across the table and said to Aaron, "So, we're the problem now?" Aaron rolled his eyes. "Apparently," he said, "Grandma told me we've been poisoned against our real family." Lauren muttered, "I'm done." And I could tell she meant it. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Because they wanted a legacy. Fine. I was going to show them exactly what that looked like, just not the way they expected. A week later, Lauren and I did something we hadn't done in years. We sat down and made a plan. Not a petty revenge plot, not something dramatic or illegal. Just something real, quiet, permanent. It started with one conversation with Ethan. I asked him if he remembered Grandma's photo, the one with the note. He nodded. I asked if he wanted to do something with it, something bigger than just framing it. He said, "I've been thinking about that." Actually, what came next didn't come from me. It came from him. Ethan had started working on a digital archive project, a family history site. It wasn't public yet, just a layout, a rough skeleton. He'd found old documents, scanned letters, photos, some from my grandmother's boxes, some from Lauren, some from neighbors who still had prints of birthday parties from the 90s. It was beautiful, honest, and completely free of my parents' curated fiction. We decided to make it public. Within a week, the site was live. The real Wallace Family Archive. Ethan's name was on the footer. Lauren's boys added stories, scans, and drawings they'd made at family reunions. I wrote down my grandmother's old recipes and posted them. We didn't include my parents' version of events. We didn't need to. And here's the twist. People loved it. Extended family members, cousins we hadn't seen in years, started emailing us, thanking us. One of them even sent us a wedding photo that included my mom, pregnant with me. Ethan posted it with the caption, "The beginning of our branch." When my parents found out, all hell broke loose. First came a text from Mom. "Take it down, you're embarrassing the family." Then one from Dad. "This isn't how we preserve a legacy. You're twisting things." But it wasn't twisting. It was truth. And it was the one thing they couldn't control. When Lauren backed me publicly in the comments with her own post, they hit their breaking point. Dad called and left a voicemail that started calm and ended with, "You've always been jealous. This isn't about Ethan. It's about punishing us." I didn't respond. Ethan did. He added a new section to the site. "Letters never sent." In it, he posted a simple entry, just a single sentence. "Being left out doesn't mean you don't belong. It just means someone else is lying about who gets to decide." The story spread. Not viral, but enough. People in town started asking questions. Asking me questions. Turns out, legacy isn't built with imported tile or birthday cakes no one remembers. It's built with truth. With people who show up. With kids who don't have to be told they matter, because they already know. The house my parents tried so hard to perfect stayed unfinished. The crown molding never got installed. The guest bathroom was still a mess. Contractors pulled out completely once they realized there was no money coming. Last I heard, they were trying to get a home equity loan. But I didn't care anymore, because the only legacy that mattered now was the one my son built with his own hands. And he built it on everything they tried to erase.